Hey guys, until the NBB here, going to talk about openly a topic that's been controversial to the Battlefield franchise for a while now, but I definitely do think it is a key component in the discussion of DLC. Now, it has been a proclaimed importance for a while now on how Battlefield needed to change its DLC model. For the longest time, it's had the Premium Pass, which has been serviceable with the amount of content it's released. But as time passed, content creators, the community, they all discussed the concept of we no longer want a premium pass because it splits the player base, which is a valid point. Splits the player base. These content drops usually die off within a couple months after release because people don't play on them anymore because the next DLC's moved out or they move back to the base maps because of the separation of player base. But with the element of Battlefield 5 coming out and the roadmap they've currently presented, with the inclusion of not a premium pass, has brought to attention the aspect that I've honestly seen coming. I mean, maybe other people have definitely seen it, and I've already heard the major Battlefield YouTuber Jack Frags mention it as well, on how the content in BF5 is going to be much less over time as other DLCs. Now, for the people who immediately jump the gun and say, well, it's gonna obviously cosmetics help pay for the game. Yes, in other different types of video games like Fortnite and PUBG, those games can, get that funding simply from cosmetics, but Battlefield is a different story. You think of how big the Battlefield titles are, and you think about how much work and how much time it takes to really create this kind of game. There's so many components, it's unimaginable. I mean, you look how big DICE Stockholm is as a studio, and you look at how they had to include another studio just to help out with the problems that DICE Stockholm made with some of the titles. But if you look back at other Battlefield games, you'll see a constant pattern, okay? So I took down some notes. I looked back at all the way back to BF3 in 2011, and I just took notes of the constant pattern of the Premium Pass. So for a Premium Pass, you purchase a fixed value, and you were expected to get a certain type of content. So in 2011, when you bought Battlefield 3, along with the Premium Pass, you were expected 5 DLC packs, and that was supposed to span all the way up till March 2013. So that's a solid, around 2 years of DLC content. For example, the first DLC pack, Back to Karkand, came out in December, which is not very far from the initial release, and that came with 4 maps, 3 new vehicles, and 10 weapons. Okay, that's a very short time frame for getting quite a significant drop for the time period, and this really became the norm. The next DLC pack came in June, which is, yes, a farther separation, but we got 10 weapons, 4 new maps, all based off of close quarter environment, along with a couple other factors like a game mode and some new gadgets and so on and so forth. The next DLC came out in September. Again, 4 new maps, 6 new vehicles. It had a different take on a DLC pack, but it still remained consistent. And then we go back to Aftermath, which came out in November, which again is not a big separation in time. And then finally Endgame, which again came out with 4 new maps, multiple new assignments, large content drops, and that came out in March of 2013. It was a constant pattern of new content, new maps to play around with, and each had a very good overarching theme, which in other Battlefield titles they do as well. There is a constant theme, so it's not like I'm bashing them on that by any means. But as we're going to see in Battlefield 4, they bring back the same exact system. It came out on October 29th, and then the first map, China Rising, came out on December 3rd. That's a greater separation than what Battlefield had, but it was very obvious, or Battlefield 3 had, but it was obvious that in BF3 that the first DLC pack was already pretty close to being done in comparison to China Rising, which was obviously needed some more time to develop. But again, it came out on December 3rd with 4 new maps, multiple new vehicles. I think it came out with the new vehicle, the Bomber, at the time, which, I mean, I guess you could just consider that a game mechanic since it's not a vehicle you could really quote-unquote drive. And then a new game mode. Then after that, we had, we go back through, the Second Assault. We go to, Dragon's Teeth. They all had new assignments, new guns, new vehicles, and 4 new maps. It was consistent. When you bought a premium pass, you knew what you were going to get. It was an investment. So then we transitioned on to BF1, where things started to get really messy. That's when the community really started boasting their opinions, stating that we no longer want a premium pass, but they still delivered it. So the community kind of punished DICE and EA, obviously, by not as a significant amount of purchases with the premium pass. And then obviously the Star Wars Battlefront got affected by this as well. But back to Battlefield 1. Okay, the first DLC pack, so first BF1 came out in October 21st of 2016, and then you had the first DLC pack. It came out in March 14th. It came out with 4 new maps, 6 guns, and then kind of weirdly enough, it had 2 new maps come out in the summer. But you have to think though, October 21st to March, that's a very significant gap for a content drop. Now, I will give them the benefit of a doubt. The upgrade in the engine, upgrade in quality, there's more textures, there's much more work that has to go into making video games. So I can still, and plus they really kind of remade BF1 from the ground up. That's why it's considered such a unique game. Hence why the different style and the different take on war, presumably. But back to my point. Between October and March, that's still a very significant time gap when it comes to new content drops, and that significantly hurt the desire to come back and play the game. I myself, I did enjoy BF1 to some extent, but I got tired of it very quickly just because there was nothing really for me to do. There was no progression that was built into the game beforehand, so it really came off of personal motivation. Meanwhile, both BF3 and BF4 had assignments that and aspects that wanted you to keep going. But back to the point, new content drops, that would have really helped me probably get back into this game. The fact is, I barely played the new DLCs from BF1 because I really lost interest in playing this game. Even when I'm a big naval warfare guy. When Turning Tides came out with BF1, I didn't even play it. And I loved I loved the trailers of the destroyers fighting each other, the big sea battles and stuff like that. I don't know why. I had no urge to play. There was this motivation and drive had burnt out inside of me at this point. But I'm sidetracking off of a BF1 rant. But back to the point here. The first DLC came out in March 16th, with a little bit of 2 maps coming out in summer. So I guess you could technically make the excuse that there was a little content drop. But then afterwards, the next DLC came out in September 5th. That from March to September, again, that's a significant separation in any sort of content drop. That is absurd for forcing your players to wait for so long just to get the next content drop. Now granted, it did give us 4 new maps and 11 guns. That sounds like really familiar to the previous pattern that they've used in other titles. But then it gets really, really, really messy. In Turning Tides, it came out in December 11th. Okay, that doesn't sound like a big time gap, right? September to December? That sounds fine. 2 maps. They split up the DLC into 2 segments. So on December 11th, we got 2 maps, 6 guns, but then the other 2 maps didn't come till January. So they weaned out the amount of content drop that we got at one period that we were expected to have. So BF1 already created this inconsistent mess of a schedule and made players just again lose interest and the desire to even play the games. And then finally Apocalypse, that's their final DLC pack. It came out in February 20th, which again sounds like a decent time frame, but they still weaned out the content, and by that point I didn't even care. I didn't care about BF1 anymore. I mean, I came back to play it here and there, and just because, for example, the Fedorov actually brings back that, aggressive medic playstyle, which is what I love so much about it. But what was the point? You know, there was no... I lost my love for Battlefield. Tank gameplay, I didn't care about it anymore. And the content drops didn't really help out that much either. Okay, and now, now we actually have the roadmap. What Battlefield 5 is expected to get for content. Ready, everyone? So Battlefield 5 is going to come out in this month, November, okay? So what are we going to get, you know, between in December, January, March? You know, it sounds like, okay, maybe 4 maps, right? So we're expected 4 maps, 10 new guns, couple new vehicles, new content drop, correct? No. What are we going to get between December and January? 1 map. 1 map. And again, going back to the very recent publicly posted video from Jack Frags on the review of Battlefield 5, he doesn't even like the new map coming out. Now granted, he's an infantry-based player with some, you know, elements of like playing vehicular combat, while this new map is completely based off of vehicular combat, at least according to the DICE developers. So take it with a grain of salt for those who like to play vehicles. But still, 1 new map though. And you're not telling me that this new way of getting content through without a premium pass is a good thing? No, we're gonna literally feel like that we're getting nothing. And just the overall desire to play this game is going to die down significantly, already after all the controversy. Who's gonna want to play a game where only 1 DLC pack comes out a couple months later? You know, people shit on Call of Duty because they're still using a premium pass, but you know what? It still works. You still get new maps. You get a new gun or something like that. I don't know how their content system works because I haven't played a Call of Duty multiplayer in so long. But they are still getting that flux of new content. Meanwhile, us Battlefield players are gonna have to wait for 1 new map that most people might not even like in the first place. Yeah, sure, is it going to be added to the overall pool of players so everyone can play it? Yeah, sure. But that doesn't make a difference when we don't even have enough content to continue playing nor the desire to play. Plus, coupled along with the fact that everyone's already, you know, multiple people are starting to feel this isn't even really a World War II based game because they're not actually considering all the most popular battles of World War II. They are just throwing in untold stories. What a terrible, terrible marketing decision, or gameplay decision, however you want to take it, okay? And then just to finish up their roadmap, and keep in mind, I am leaving out some details. I'm leaving out the campaign that they're gonna add, the last war story, but honestly, who gives a shit? I'm talking multiplayer here. They are adding a section, a map that allows for a training room. Sure, yay. Good job. Battlefield 4 had that at launch. You know, there's a pattern here that I'm trying to, the concern I really have, because I love Battlefield, but Battlefield 5 is the first Battlefield that I'm not going to pre-order. I'm not going to get it on day 1. I'm going to wait and see if the ship really sinks. And in some ways it does deserve to sink for multiple reasons. And honestly, it's the community's fault though. On the terms of the DLC, if people would, I understand, I do get it though. I get that spending $40, $50 on a premium pass, it hurts. You're spending, you know, $100, $110 on a video game. But you have to think, at what point, 4 new maps, you know, okay, so 8 new maps over the course of 6 months, that's the equivalent of what a normal Battlefield game normally has, so theoretically you're doubling the amount of base content for a multiplayer game, so shouldn't it be worth, you know, $40? That's already cheaper, because in $40 you're going to get 16 new maps by the end of the period, with over 20, 30 new guns, according to the, you know, BF3, BF4. But now, we're going to get less content. Are we going to get a DLC pack that's named Normandy? Are we going to get 4 great maps detailing the rush of Normandy? Maybe certain cities that are taken over? No! If that, I guarantee you, when the Americans get released in BF5, they're going to get maybe 1, you know, you're going to get 2 new guns. We're going to get 1 new map. If that. One new map. If I'm wrong, then come back to this video and prove me that I'm wrong. But at this current point, Battlefield 5 is a sinking ship when it comes to new downloadable content. And that's the community's fault. Battlefield 5 doesn't have, the developers don't have the money and the resources now to invest into larger DLC packs of 4 maps and whatever extra content may be. They now are gonna have to settle for whatever scraps they get. No one's gonna pay for these microtransactions, and these microtransactions aren't even gonna be worth it. When I spent $40, I knew what I was going to get. I was going to get new guns that kept me interested. I was going to get new things. It provided a sense of worth. Battlefield 5 feels like nothing. It feels empty. It feels... I don't even know what to say anymore at this point. I'm so frustrated. There's so many things that have been taken out, removed, and changed. Battlefield 5, yes! The core gameplay, according to multiple Battlefield YouTubers, is at its core back to what it was back in BF3 and BF4, which is a strong appeal to me. But how in the world am I going to keep playing when I have no drive to keep playing except for maybe just the core gameplay? But is that worth $60 to me? No, it's not. When you have to wean out content, and when the content itself, by the end of it, so if we did a basic quota at this current roadmaps, we might get 5 to 6 new maps over the course of into the end of 2019. 5 new maps in 1 year. Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, we had up to 8, maybe even 12 new maps by that point. I mean, heck, you go back to Battlefield 4 for a second. After the premium pass, they released a weapons crate drop that added new guns just because. It's because the community wanted so many guns that were from BF3. Did we get that in BF1? Not really. If I were to suppose a solution to this, because I've been rambling on for way too long at this point, is that if I was able to essentially create the business model for Battlefield 6, this was what I'd probably say. And honestly, it would be against the majority, and it would probably, kind of hurt the aspect of the marketing. But if they actually sold it right, it could still probably work, since, again, Call of Duty could still do it effectively. Back to the point. Battlefield 6, let's say it's modern military again, okay? $60 for the base game, the base maps, however many guns, let's say 20 to 30, and then $40 to $50 for a new premium pass. But here's the thing, this is the only thing that I would change. Premium pass would allow people to essentially play the main DLCs for, let's say, a month early access, a month and a half early access, and then after that it might become free or deduction in price. That way there is a compromise for the people who haven't played the new DLCs yet, and the DLC maps are dying down, or even this, maybe the premium pass embeds the new maps into the base game, so the playlists and stuff include the new maps, so those maps don't get left out, so people's favorite new content can still be continued to play to this day. You look at these amazing models that the roadmap to the release of Battlefield 5, BF1 was free, the premium pass was free, BF4 was free, plus there were so many amazing deals. I'm like, why can't we do this during, the actual timeline of a Battlefield game? Let's say in this theoretical Battlefield 6, the first DLC pack has come out, 4 new maps, 10 new vehicles, so on and so forth. Let's say this, that over the course of the next month, those maps become free. But those guns and those new vehicles, maybe the game mode, I'm not sure about that. But all of that could be embedded afterwards. You'd have to still pay for them. That is what the Premium Pass gave you. The Premium Pass gives you new weapons, new guns, new maps a month early. That way everyone can be happy and still get to play a new game. Now, yes, people could still call, but the overpowered guns. I have to pay for, so it's pay to win. Listen, there's some aspects that you have to take in consideration when playing a video game, especially a multiplayer video game. If you want the longevity of a game to last, it is up to the developers to create guns that are equally fair and balanced. And to be honest, I like the gun pool in Battlefield 4. A lot of people hate it because there's way too many. Well, yes, might be a lot of guns, but it allowed the ability to play have a different play style for the day. You know, different flavors. Even though guns might still feel the same, they look the different, so you kind of give this sense of difference. I'm not a picky person who goes into the nitty-gritty details of the recoil patterns and stuff like that. I just play the game and play the game. So, I've been rambling on for way too long at this point. So to summarize my thoughts here, BF5 is, again, a beached ship. A ship sinking to the bottom of the ocean in the terms of its future content. They should have continued the premium pass under a different model. They should not have scrapped it entirely, because now it's going to bite the community in the ass, and everyone's going to bitch now on how there's not enough content in the game. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You guys wanted it in the first place, and you guys said you tell them that we would buy your microtransactions. We would buy your skins. Oh, but the skins in the game aren't good enough. They tried to make unique skins and models that made them maybe worth buying, but everyone bitched on how they weren't authentic to World War II, so they took them out. I didn't like them either, but at least they were trying to think outside the box in order to have some people buy their cosmetics. When you look at the statistics, people who loved Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, they bought the premium pass because they knew what they were getting into. So DICE knew that they had invested amount of certain quantity of people who spent $40 times the amount of people who purchased the premium pass. Now, they have to throw in random values of how much cosmetic DLC, how much microtransactions, how much of that was purchased in a certain time window, and then antiquate that through EA to see how much they could actually do. It baffles me on where the gaming industry has gone over the past couple of years. Some games can play this model perfectly fine. Fortnite obviously is very successful because of this model, but that's a free-to-play game. People can feel a bit more obligated and worthwhile to spend a little bit of money because the game is free in the first place. So that thought process is already embedded. I've spent $60 on this game to expect a certain amount of content drop. And then we turn around and, oh, by the way, we're not going to be getting as much content over time. Because if I actually loved Battlefield 5, I'd be worth to spend more. I'd worth to spend an extra $40 to get all this extra content, because let's face it, Fortnite is a much smaller game in terms of the technicality and the specifications as Battlefield 5 is. So I'm just going to continue ranting on about this game, but back to my point, Battlefield 5 is a sinking ship. We need the premium model back, otherwise Battlefield's never going to be the same. We're never going to get as much content as we used to. And you know what? It's not even DICE's fault. It might be I mean, if you look at the BF1 DLC cycle, that could be because they were running behind and they weren't able to keep up with content waves. So then adjust the premium model accordingly. Maybe we only get 3 maps over the course of a couple months, but at least, you know, the premium pass is cheaper. So at least we're expected that. We have no idea what to expect from this, because obviously DICE doesn't know how to create effective roadmap. I look at this roadmap right now. You know, the Return of Rush, Squad Conquest, Combine Arms, all these silly game modes, throwaway game modes. Damn it, people. It's infuriating. I want to wait for the next Battlefield game and hope to God that somehow the rights and wrongs will be surpassed. But, I mean, obviously, that's probably not going to happen, so. Anyways, this was a long-ass rant, but I feel like it was needed to be discussed because there's the elephant in the room, and that's, you know, the amount of things that we get for the future of the Battlefield franchise is going to be significantly less than what I grew up understanding. So, if you guys, you know, want to talk about this in the comments, that's fine. You know, if even people have watched up to this point, this is 25 minutes of a random gamer with no subscribers talking about Battlefield 5. But I've been a veteran of this franchise for a long time now, so I've expected some things. So, anyways, I hope you guys have a good day, and you know, we need to keep the discussion going. You have to throw out this extra element to make sure that, you know, it might have a chance in the future, but I really don't see how. Anyways, have a good one. Peace out.
But it came at a tremendous loss of life for both sides. And without the promised support of Russia's other armies, much of the territory gained by Brusilov was lost to the Germans arriving from the west. It is a sad irony that in the end, it was a political collapse in Russia, not a military defeat, that would decide the outcome of this region's war.